I was on Coast to Coast AM last night in the first hour, and George Norrie asked me what I thought about the BP spill, and I told him that all the evidence points towards a false flag attack. And I've got Paul Watson and Steve Watson working the last week researching the oil spill. The definitive report, now 40-plus days after, will be published in the next 2 hours at prisonplanet.com. We've all been working on it together. It's not 100% that it's staged, but all the evidence points towards it being staged. And it is 100% that they are allowing it to continue, and that they want it to be a bigger disaster as a pretext, as the Washington Post reported last week, for Obama to pass his new carbon tax, a wellhead tax, a gas pump tax, a energy tax, all levied in the name of cleaning up the Gulf. And they're not letting the public witness what's happening. They're not letting people in Louisiana, Mississippi, and Florida put up their own sand berms or their own systems to block the oil from going into the estuaries, into the brackish water areas where the rivers and streams enter the mangrove swamps, where it's most destructive to the fisheries and the communities. The feds are a bunch of control freaks, and they're in there accentuating the crisis as much as they can. And I'm not the only one saying it. Many other analysts across the board are saying, look, Obama wants to nationalize the oil companies. And the big top mega BPs, ExxonMobils, and others, they're already nationalized. They're already owned by the big central banks that are the global government that's merged with our national government. And their specialty is doing things to themselves and then having presidents, prime ministers, CEOs fall on their swords, but then the power structure expands its control. Remember Katrina? Day one, it turned out FEMA had done drills of cutting off the cell phones, cutting off the police radios, not allowing aid to come in. Then when they actually had Katrina hit, they did that. They cut the cell phone towers, cut the police control towers, wouldn't let local police or even the National Guard at the beginning or the Coast Guard or Walmart come in and help. People said, why? Why 4, 5, 6 days, no food or water, stacking it up, not giving it to people inside the Astrodome? Why not let people walk out on the high and dry highways out to other areas? Because it was all a laboratory, a test, an experiment, a drill. The Pentagon calls Iraq a laboratory. They call, when they have military drills in the U.S., a laboratory. They call Afghanistan a laboratory. They're now injecting police with steroids all over the nation publicly. A few years ago, it was the big secret that a third or more cops were on it. Now they're putting them on speed. The military's on steroids and amnesics and hallucinogens and mind control drugs, now publicly. It's all a giant experiment. This is a scientific dictatorship. The globalists don't care about celebrity and about looking like winners. They want to be winners. They want to be controllers. They feed you issues and distractions and things that don't matter because, yeah, they're going to get a carbon tax out of this. At least that's their goal. They're going to get more control over onshore drilling. They've already had a total ban on already permitted wells in the Gulf. And now they're going to use it to nationalize, to a greater extent, our energy system. Because there are so many wildcats and independent groups out there producing oil in this country, they want to shut them down. The monopolists want to shut it down. But here is the most important point of all of this. When we get back, the most important, key, overarching reason that bare minimum they are not letting the full scope of the disaster be known, A, and B, allowing it to continue, doing everything they can. I mean, we know they're blocking known fixes. We'll be back. Well, we have clear, incontrovertible evidence of prepositioning of financial assets to profit the globalists in the week before the oil spill began a month and a half ago. We have absolutely crystal clear evidence of that. Namely, Halliburton bought up a oil spill company a week before that operates in the Gulf. Halliburton had the contract with a subcontractor on the Deepwater Horizon out in the Gulf of Mexico. You have the CEO of Goldman Sachs, Chief Tony Hayward, selling his shares, a record amount of shares, in the weeks before the oil spill, over a third of his shares. You have Goldman Sachs, and we heard rumors of this at the time, but now it's confirmed via Federal Trade Commission filings, FOIA request done by Raw Story, and it reports that 4,680,822 shares, or 44%. But then I went and did some research. That was one of the dumps 2 days before, a day before they dumped some more. So it was over 50% total of the Goldman Sachs stock in British Petroleum that was riding high at the time. This oil well of 3,000 plus U.S. licensed oil wells, it's 3,000 plus, you can look it up. I don't have the actual number in front of me. It's 3,300 and something. But the point is, it's over 3,000 U.S. licensed oil rigs in the Gulf. And out of 3,000 plus, a safety video was shot for the White House and about environmentalism. And Obama gave one award to that oil rig. You have BP being the top globalist oil company. Queen Beatrix of the Netherlands, one of the big owners, as well as Dutch Roll Shell. Those two companies are partnered. The Queen of England owns a large portion of British Petroleum, of course. British Petroleum is allowed to get 80% under government agreements since the 70s of the oil that comes out of Alaska. You're only allowed to have one pipeline to the U.S. The rest is all sent to Japan and China. See, it's all a cartel. It's all rigged. We have one of the most controlled energy industries in the world because the Rockefellers didn't discover oil, but within months of it being discovered, they discovered the way to create a monopoly and to bring it to market. And so it was the United States that created the oil industry worldwide. It was the Rockefellers, and they created the monopoly. And in 1906, they got their supposed monopoly busted up into, 8 different major oil companies. Those later split into several more, up to 12 and then 14. But the Rockefellers of this day are tax exempt. The public sure busted up the trust. See, back then, trusts were known as mega monopolies. So they spun it and they said, well, we'll have a new trust. We'll be tax exempt, and we'll break up our companies and divest our control of them, which didn't really happen. And so then they could have 14 different oil companies, not just Standard Oil, and jack up the prices on you. And it's the same thing with diamonds, same thing with water, same thing with timber, same thing with 3 big companies controlling almost all of the corn and wheat and soybeans and canola. And they're busy mopping up. They write the federal regulations to shut down their competition. And if they need to stage a crisis to consolidate power, they're going to do it. And they cover all their bases. Why do you think that BP and Archer Daniels Midland Company and the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds and the UN, they all have gone in together on no fewer than 50-plus emergency underground, guarded by machine gun nest and pillboxes, seed vaults. Oh, yeah, their seed vaults in the U.S., India, England, Russia, Japan are guarded by armed guards. Now, at the North Pole, they've got quite a few of these installations, and they don't need to because they're hundreds of miles from even the smallest town and are giant iron fortress doors. You can just go to YouTube and type in Arctic Seed Vault, and you can watch the newscast. Big, giant armored doors that it'd take 100 pounds of C4 to get into. Those are the only ones that aren't guarded because they don't need to guard them. Okay, so they're guarding original non-hybrid, non-GMO seeds in fortresses because they're going to infect everything. In fact, we've even seen them brag about this, the big GMO companies. They're going to infect every major seed line of every food crop.